South Africa, in fact, opened its borders on the 1st of October, and the banned travel list for level 1 was revealed. But there are exemptions in place for countries with low coronavirus transmission rates. Now, the borders initially closed at the end of March, and although there are still social distancing, mask wearing, and even crowd control restrictions in place at level 1, the travel list itself will be reviewed every 2 weeks. Our border controls will also remain airtight for the foreseeable future, with everyone passing through Mzansi required to prove that they are in fact COVID negative. Temperature checks will be mandatory for all travellers, amongst other protocols to be observed. Now, we are joined by travel agent Taryn Agliotti to unpack how these changes will ultimately affect customers regarding travel insurance as that list adjusts and flights resume. Well, Taryn, a very good morning. Thanks for joining us here on Weekend Dawn. I mean, we saw this week 57 countries on South Africa's banned travel list. In fact, South Africa is splitting countries into high, medium and low risk. Walk us through what the current travel situation is like coming in and out of South Africa.
Good morning, Liezle. Thanks very much. As you can imagine, since the president's announcement that the borders would open, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. No one was really sure until Thursday or Wednesday's announcement what countries were going to be on the banned list. So the airlines, and I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out, can they come in, what are they going to do, and a lot of the airlines are still waiting for government approval to fly. So it's not yet full steam ahead, but it's slowly opening up.
So based on it slowly opening up, I mean, we saw the 1st of October as ultimately when it did resume, but looking at the travel requirements that are required in general, what is needed for those making their way in and out of South Africa?
Okay, so basically the banned list is for leisure travelers only. So the high risk list is anyone traveling for leisure will not be allowed into the country. If you're on a South African passport, if you have a residence permit, if you have a business visa, if you're a diplomat, you are going to be allowed to travel even if you're coming from a high risk country. You are going to need a negative PCR test 72 hours prior to departure from your country of origin. There will be quite strict screening tests when you land in South Africa. So if you are showing any symptoms, even if you have a negative test, you will be sent off to quarantine.
All right, and I'm just looking at how it was announced that the travel list will be reviewed every 2 weeks. You know, it definitely sparks the question and the issue of travel insurance and ultimately what it looks like. What are the options available for travelers at this point? I mean, one can't help but wonder if they travel to another country and whilst they are there, you know, that list is reviewed and subsequently they bumped up to a high risk country. How is travel insurance going to cater for such scenarios?
Unfortunately, travel insurance doesn't cover you for your quarantine. It doesn't cover you for a COVID test. You're only going to really be covered for your travel insurance if you're hospitalized with COVID. If you are already out of the country, they're going to let you back in if you're South African or if you fall under all of the categories that are listed who can travel even from a high risk.
Okay, so and ultimately, what can travelers then do to protect themselves and others as they, embark on the journeys and continue flying in and out of South Africa?
I think everyone just has to keep doing what we've been doing for the past few months. Masks are going to still be mandatory on flights, sanitizing, gloves. Just protect yourself as you would from COVID. Everyone's going to have to download the COVID Alert app so that you will be alerted if you have been in contact with anyone that has tested positive for COVID. So I think it's just, you're still going to have to keep your restrictions in place and everyone's going to have to be careful.
Taryn, just before we conclude this conversation, I mean, arguably, there have been concerns about the banned travel list and its impact on the economy. We've seen the tourism industry also taking on a knock-on effect. Ultimately, what is the impact of tourism as some of the highest spending tourists, including countries from the UK and the US, are still on that banned list? What is that impact going to have on the tourism sector and the economy at large in conclusion?
It's going to have a massive effect. Already the tourism industry has taken a huge knock this year. We account for a huge percentage of the GDP, and not having our borders open, we are going to be losing more and more every day. So hopefully, as the list is reviewed, we'll be able to accept people from the high spending.
All right, and then Taryn, again, just for those who will be traveling in and out of South Africa, you did issue some precautionary measures in terms of adhering to some of the rules and regulations for those who will be coming in and out of the country. But in conclusion, in terms of the risks that are involved, you know, many people have had concerns about the lockdown impacting more people and obviously increasing the number of infections that the country is experiencing. I mean, to date, looking at those concerns, what is your travel advice to those who want to pursue this, both in the continent and the world at large?
Well, everyone does have to get back to business, but like I said, everyone just has to, you know, kind of be very proactive in keeping themselves safe and, you know, continuing social distancing. If you are going to be traveling, now is not the time to kind of be doing it on your own. Get the advice of a professional, just so you always know what's happening. Things are going to be changing a lot continuously. So if you are dealing with a professional, you'll get your updates, you'll know what's happening. That's all I can really say.
All right. Well, Taryn, we do know that change is the only constant. And again, thank you very much for joining us here on Weekend Dawn. Again, travel agent Taryn Agliotti chatting about the impact of Level 1 travel list as South African borders, of course, opened on the 1st of October.